Thank you so much, Persis. So, good morning. Welcome to Fulbright Association's India Interest Group's virtual Chai Chat series. My name is Sherilyn Pollard Duradola. I'm one of the board members. Mira Nilani, who is our president, I think she is actually traveling in India right now. Persis is also a member of the board. The India Interest Group comprises alumni, grantee, and friends of the Fulbright Association who aim to connect, engage, and inspire individuals who are interested in fostering cultural and intellectual ties between the United States and India and globally. We are especially excited about this Chai Chat series. Welcome to the first of one of our three-part Chai Chat series. Um, I'm sorry, can you hear me? I heard a noise. Okay. In the second session, which will occur in the spring, I think in March, we'll share our own stories over a cup of chai in breakout rooms. Today, we're going to focus on the history, culture, and significance of chai as a symbol of Indian hospitality and community. And then in the third part of our series, which will occur in May, we will work on a collaborative literary work. It will be a multilingual anthology to capture our diverse experiences around chai. We are happy to bring this vision to life by partnering with Ed Links and Keller Books. Some of those individuals are here with us today. I'd like to recognize them. Sarah Trubridge, who is the founder, hi, Sarah, who is the founder and CEO, brings over 40 years of expertise in education, equity, and resilience. And also Kay Viney, I see that she's here also. Thank you so much for being here. Who is the chief of staff. Her leadership makes these initiatives possible. Also, I think Matt Morley might be here. I'm not sure, but I'd like to recognize him also. Keller Brooks was founded by our Fulbright India alumni and inspired by the Fulbright mission of cultural and linguistic diversity and diplomacy. It celebrates the richness of Indian languages and cultures. Together, we'll create a collaborative literary work over our cups of chai, and Keller Books has been so generous in helping us to publish this. And thank you so much. We're really excited about this project. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest speaker, tea expert Kevin Marino. I'm going to get this right. Tam Yagam. There you go, Kevin. Thank you. For Kevin, tea is not just a beverage, it's a part of who we are. For those who grow, craft, and share it, tea represents passion, patience, and purpose. In India, where chai stalls bustle on every street corner and tea brings people together across languages, regions, and traditions, Kevin sees tea as both heritage and connection. Kevin was raised in Sri Lanka, surrounded by the legacy of Ceylon tea and inspired by his grandfather's work as chief superintendent of tea estates. Kevin grew up immersed in stories of plantations and the generations who nurtured them. His journey carried him to India, where he rediscovered the familiar rhythm of tea in milk tea shops and vibrant markets across South Asia. Today, with over a decade of experience as a global tea trader, Kevin sources premium teas, herbs, and natural flavors from Sri Lanka, India, and beyond. He works with markets across the US, Europe, and East Asia, blending tradition with innovation to create tea experiences that refresh, heal, and connect us all. Please join us as Kevin takes us today through the heritage and magic behind every cup of tea. And I hope you have some because I brought my own today um, as he brings us together as a community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Fulbright. Without further ado, Let me share the screen and let's jump into the content right away. Can I have a thumbs up if you can see my screen?
Kevin, I do see the black block, the gray block. Just wanted to let you know.
Is it okay now?
Yes, and I also see your icon that says show presenter view screen arrow. Is anyone else able to see that too, or? Yeah, it's okay now. You have to click the three dots once again so that block goes away. Yeah, there you go. It's good.
Cool. Welcome. I need to, sorry, there's a technical glitch.
I'm sorry, Kevin, I believe you're on mute.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. So welcome everyone. It's an honor to be here. So I'll be actually running through about a small introduction about history of tea, history about how chai evolved, and and so on. To start with, my name is Kevin Thaminayagam. I'm a global tea trader. I represent a tea company which is called Ishwan Tea. Uh, you see these beautiful pictures. These are my partners, my leaders, my colleagues, and my and my customers. Um, this picture is basically to show that tea business is something which is family oriented. Most of the businesses are run by families and they are passed, the legacy is passed through generations. And the company that I represent also is a 65-year-old company, which is on its third generation right now. And right now, the legacy has been passed through the third generation by its founders. And it's our duty right now to develop the business, to take it to even more global heights. We work with about 50 countries across the globe. We do multiple brands. We co-manufacture. We are expertise in tasting teas, sourcing flavors, coming up with innovations and new product developments. some of the works that we do are in the US, in Japan, in EU, specifically coming up with tea-related, herbal-related products, ready-to-drinks, which are right now the value addition, you call it, which is very welcome across the current tea consumers. Moving on to the agenda for today, I'll be briefing on the introductions of tea, the history of tea, how the role of colonialism took place, how did chai evolve, and why is tea just beyond a drink? Introduction to tea. I would like to take a moment to honor the tea pluckers right now. Uh, Tea pluckers are the key for any tea business because they wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning. They venture into the misty fields. They go search for the perfect two leaves and a bud. They carry about 20 kilos on their backs, delivering the nature's treasure, which is the tea, before sunrise, and they have to give it to the tea fields, tea estates that they belong to. The leaves are then transformed and they are actually manufactured, and then it goes to a weekly auction where the world bids for the finest brew, and the journey of tea continues across the globe. For me, personally, tea is adventure, tea is culture, tea is unity, and tea is life. Before we jump into more information, while my definition of tea is adventure comes from Sri Lanka, an island which we call is the pearl of the Indian Ocean, an island that resembles tea and culture, and it's part of our day-to-day lives. That's a perfect cup of Ceylon tea that resembles 150 years of legacy, which a lot of history, that inheritance to this industry. Please excuse me for a minute. I would need to, as a technical glimpse, I would come back.
Just show it in this. Can we show it in the other view? Yeah.
Sorry about it. I'm back. So here's a fun fact before we move on. Um, Tea isn't just a drink. In many places, it's a whole culture. For example, there's a way of sitting, a way of brewing, a way of serving, and even a way of receiving tea. Every step is done with intention and respect, both for the tea maker and the tea itself. One of the countries that still beautifully preserves this tradition is Japan, where the tea ceremony is practiced with incredible grace and discipline. It's a wonderful reminder that tea is not just consumed, it's experience. In Japan, in ancient Japan, samurais left their swords at the door and duck under a low tea room entrance, literally bowing down their rank. Once inside, tea softened social distinctions, and even rivals would share a moment of peace, reflection, and unity over a cup of tea. Let's jump into the history of tea.
Kevin, we are not able to see your presentation. You can change back to the previous setting. Thank you.
Go to share settings.
Yes, we can see now. Thank you.
So the history of tea comes in where, before I get into the history of tea, here's a fact that a tea bush can actually grow up to 5 feet tall. The reason I'm stating this is that the tea was discovered back in 2737 BC, where an emperor Shen Nong um, was boiling a pot of water, and accidentally some tea leaves fell into the pot. This created a fragrant infusion, and when he tasted it, he found he found a different taste, which was refreshing, and that's when the birth of tea began. Scientifically, the tea comes from the plant Camellia sinensis, which is a member of the Theaceae family. The polyphenols, the catechins, the caffeine, and the theanine compounds in the tea gave the refreshing taste, stimulating effect, and health benefits. So why do they call it tea? The word tea comes from the Chinese language. In the Min Chinese dialect, which is spoken in Fujian, tea is pronounced te or te or te. So this pronunciation spread to Europe and much of the world through sea trade, especially by the Dutch, leading to the English word tea. In other Chinese dialects, especially in Mandarin and Cantonese, it is pronounced cha. The version spread across Asia, the Middle East, and parts of Europe through land trade routes, which is why we see words like chai, cha, or cha in Japan, and sha in Arabic. So the reason it's called tea is simply due to the specific Chinese dialect that early European traders encountered. So now we all know why it is called tea, and it is because of different dialects, which has formed cha from te to cha, from cha to tea. And in Tamil specifically, we call it te neeb, which is te means again tea, and need means water. So in that aspect, that's also another word. So we're looking at the tea manufacturing process here. We have tea will be manufactured in four kinds: the orthodox tea, the CTC teas, the green teas, and the oolongs. So there are about six processes for tea manufacturing. Initially, it comes in it starts with plucking. So only the top two tender leaves and a bud are hand plucked. Then it goes to the withering. Witherings are spread out into troughs to reduce moisture content by 45% over 8 to 18 hours, making them pileable, initiating chemical changes. Then the next process is called rolling, which is called the leaves are rolled to break the cell walls, releasing essential oils and juices that begin the oxidation process. Once the rolling is done, we move into fermentation. Fermentation is basically the rolled leaves from the rollers are spread in a cool, humid room to allow for a controlled chemical reaction with oxygen, which develops the tea flavors, color, and strength. Next would be the drying process, which is called where the tea leaves are dried with hot air to halt oxidation and lock in the flavor, reducing the moisture to 2 to 3%. Once the drying process is over, which comes to the final stage, which is called sorting and grading. The dried tea is shifted into different grades like orange pekoe, different grades based on the size and quality. There are different types of grades, which can start with small leaves, larger leaves, and there are plenty of grades where a tea trader would identify by looking at it. Another important method is called the CTC method, which is called the crush tear curl. Again, it goes through the same process, but the final grading, it produces smaller particles, which is ideal for tea bags. Green tea processing is another process, which is instead of firing, they use a steam process, which makes the tea appear with the green color, and the color would also be appear as green, and that's why it's called green tea. Some of the key elements here, as India and Sri Lanka are the largest tea, one of the largest tea importers and manufacturers. And in India, there are three major regions that produces tea, which is Assam and Darjeeling, and then Nilgiri, which is on the southern part of India. Assam is called the tea tea garden of India, and Darjeeling again is called the champagnes of tea in India, whereas Nilgiri is more often used for tea bags, specifically for milk teas. So from China, the tea traveled through monks to Japan, through Silk Road traders to Central Asia and the Middle East. European merchants took it to Europe, and colonial agriculture brought teas to India, Sri Lanka, and Africa. Here is a small statistics on the number of kilos of teas that's been produced a year in some of the most important countries that grow tea. Next, I'm bringing into the role of colonialism in India. When the British arrived in India, they noticed that many local tribes were already drinking wild tea. At the same time, Britain had a huge problem. They were completely dependent on China for tea. China demanded payment only in silver, which created a massive trade imbalance for the British. So the British made a strategic decision if they could grow tea in India, if they could break China's monopoly and control their own supply. In 1834, the British government formed a tea committee to explore this idea seriously. Just a few years later, in 1837, the first commercial tea plantation was set up in Chabua, which is in the upper part of Assam, a place that became the birthplace of India's tea industry. To make this possible, the British brought in Chinese tea seeds and even sent a botanist, his name is called Robert Fortune, to China in 1848. His job was to secretly learn their cultivation techniques and bring back live tea plants to India. So the Indian tea industry, as we know it today, began as both an agricultural experiment and a major economic strategy during the colonial era. Moving to the role of colonialism in Sri Lanka, the story begins in 1824 when the British planted the very first tea plant from China in the Royal Botanical Gardens, which is in Nuvarelia. Nuvarelia is one of the highest highest altitude hill place, which is 5,000 feet above sea level in Sri Lanka, which is still one of the oldest and most beautiful gardens on the island today. But the real turning point came in 1867. A young Scottish planter named James Taylor started the first commercial tea plantation on the Lul Kondre estate. He later built a small factory in 1872, making the true birth of Sri Lanka's tea industry. Even right now, if you visit this place, you can see James Taylor's house, you can see the estates, and you'll be able to experience where tea was first initially cultivated. What pushed this shift even further was a disaster. In the late 1860s, there was a disease wiped out the island's coffee plantation. So in Sri Lanka, before tea, coffee was the major industry. Almost overnight, planters had to find a new crop to survive, and tea became Sri Lanka's lifeline. From that moment on, tea didn't just grow, it transformed the entire landscape and identity of the country. So how many of you here love masala chai? Can I have, you guys can raise your hands if you like masala chai, because I'm going to talk a little bit of masala chai. For me, it became my go-to drink when I lived in India. And one of the best things about India is that you can find a chai stall literally on every street corner. No matter where you are, there's always someone boiling a fresh pot of chai. And of course, chai is never alone. It comes with butter biscuits or cookies. My wife told me that when she and her siblings were kids, they didn't just eat biscuits. The culture was they dipped them into their milk tea until they were soft and perfect. And that was their everyday after school snack. It's small things like this that show how deeply chai is woven into daily life and childhood memories in India. Early 20th century, 1920s onwards, 1920, 1930s, tea consumptions grew among Indians due to British promotion and local plantation. Street vendors, you call them chai walas, began mixing tea, milk, sugar, and local spices. This marks the birth of a modern masala chai as a daily beverage. The secret ingredient for masala chai is you got 5 spices, which is cinnamon, cardamom, nutmeg, a little bit of pepper, and um, cloves. So these are first brewed in hot water along with tea. They make it like a very thick brew. And then once it's boiled to its perfection, they steam the tea out along with the spice. The spices will be infused in the tea, and then the milk is boiled and it's mixed together. And then the most important part for India is sugar, and they'll add the sugar for their taste, makes it a perfect cup of refreshing masala chai. Every tea growing region has its own season, just like fruit or wine. These seasons have a huge impact on the quality of the tea. Because of that, prices can vary. Some tea starts around at $3 a kilo, while high quality seasonal teas can reach up to about $100 a kilo. And you have some exceptional teas that even can go up to about $1,000 a kilo. In India, Darjeeling has four types of seasons, which is called the first flush, the second flush, the monsoon or rainy flush, and the autumn flush. Predominantly, the first flush and the second flush teas are the most sought out teas. And then comes in the Assam region, you have the first flush and the second flush and the autumn flush. And then in the Nilgiris, you have main flushes and autumn flushes. So these are some of the key seasons where tea traders source their teas from India and sort their prices based on quality of the seasons of the taste, and they are sold for tea exporters. Assam is one of the largest tea growing areas, especially for CTC and black teas. And Darjeeling is an high altitude hills known for delicate floral Darjeeling teas. And Nilgiris is mountain range in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, producing tea with a cool, misty climate.
Excuse me, Kevin. I think we've lost the image. There it is. Okay. Right.
I believe when you click presenter view, I think the image disappears. But we can see now.
Yeah.
So we're moving to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, again, is a key tea growing region, as I said. We have 7 main agroclimatic tea regions. Starts from Nuwara, Udapusalava, Uva, Dimbula, Kandy, Sabargama, and Buhulan. Tea buyers across the world choose teas based on what their palate prefers. You have Middle Eastern palate, which they require a strong cup of tea. If you look at the Japanese, on the east side, they prefer very delicate, very aromatic, very flavorful teas. And Africans, they like their teas very strong, so they always prefer teas that comes from a region, which I'll be explaining. So you've got 3 types of elevations when it comes to Ceylon tea. The first one is low grown, which is 200,000 feet up to 2,000 feet from sea level. So the Sub-Brahmo and the Ruhuna areas are basically called the low-grown teas. The mid-grown teas are called the candy teas, which is again 2,000 to 4,000 feet from sea level. And then comes the high-grown teas. These are elevated above 4,000 feet. And Nuwara, Udapusalava, Dimbula, Uva, these are the regions that are part of the high-grown teas. So countries like Middle East, Africa, they prefer teas from the low grown because they always like to drink their tea very strong. As I said, like Africans, they like to drink very strong cup of tea because for them to keep their appetite intact. The Middle East always like to have a low-grown tea because it's more suitable for milk. The mid-grown teas are very delicate, and high-grown teas are also same as the mid-grown teas. It's even more delicate than the mid-grown teas, uh, which is more preferred by the Japanese and by the Chinese, by consumers in the EU. Next is a important factor when you consider tea is the tea tasting criteria. Uh, so when you're tasting your teas, the freshness really matters. So you look at the freshness by its appearance, and then comes the infused leaf appearance, then comes the aroma, then comes the liquor, that is the appearance of the brewed tea, and then the taste, the flavor profile, and then last but not least, the mouthfeel and the aftertaste. There's a small video about how I take. Hi, my name is Kevin Marino. Ceylon tea, the best in the world. The slurping on tasting tea is part of a tea taster's personality because you slurp tea to get the real the real character of his tea. We distinguish characters by slurping. Especially tea contains astringency. You can also figure aftertaste such as burnt, smoke. These kind of characters are being identified when you slurp, and this comes on not a practice that you do. You literally have to taste many cups a day for you to get that experience of finding the right taste and figuring out which is the right tea, which for a person, for a customer who prefers, his kind of criteria, which for which market each tea is suitable. So all of these aspects come through tasting and identifying the right tea for the right country, for the right customer. Also, brewing your tea is very important. Your net weight needs to be balanced. So if you look at contents, each tea bag contains 2 grams for black teas, and you can go up to about 2.5 grams if you need it more stronger. And also, your steeping times really matters. For black teas, it's about 3 to 5 minutes. Green tea, it's about 1 to 3 minutes. For oolong, or oolong or other kind of Chinese tea, you can go up to about 2 to 4 minutes or 5 minutes. The next aspect is identifying the right tea bags. As a fun fact, I'm putting it on, a tea bag was invented by Thomas Sullivan in 1908 in New York, who was a tea importer. He apparently had sent samples in a small silk pouch to one of his clients, and his clients accidentally steeped the tea right in the bags. This happy accident led to the invention of tea bag, making brewing tea faster and easier. So why shapes are very important? On your day-to-day teacups, you buy teas at the retail stores. The general tea product will contain a double chamber or a single chamber or a round tea bag. These are these are called filter tea bags, predominantly used to pack small leaves. We call it fannings when it comes to a grade. And the most of the herbal teas, you can see them in triangular tea bags because they are larger in size, and these triangular whole tea bags are mainly used to pack whole leaves. Looking at the economical significance right now, some of the key players in importing tea from these markets are Iraq, Russia, the Middle East, and the surrounding countries around. And then when you look at the UAE, apart from them, you have USA, UK, Germany, and so on. There are some statistics on percentage wise on the level of tea, on the consumption ratios. Today, tea has grown into a multi-million dollar global industry, and it's not just India and Sri Lanka leading the way anymore. Countries like Kenya have become major players too. In fact, Kenya is one of the biggest tea manufacturers in the world now and plays a vital role in keeping the global tea market moving. So, what started as a regional tradition has now become a worldwide industry with many countries contributing to what we all enjoy in our cups today. Value addition and growth. Like you say now, tea is so much more than just a beverage. Across different cultures, it has become a symbol, a ritual, a connector of people, and even a way of life. Every cup carries a piece of history, heritage, and meaning that stretches far beyond the drink itself. Tea is a cultural ritual all around the world. It is woven into daily traditions. The Japanese tea ceremony, with its calm precision, the British afternoon tea with its elegance, Chinese gong fu cha with its artistry, and the vibrant chai culture of South Asia. In every one of these traditions, tea represents hospitality, respect, mindfulness, and connection. Tea is now evolving into easy way of drinking it from the traditional way. The new generations, the Gen Zs, like to have their teas much more easy on the go. So brands are coming up with ready to drink, which is becoming very popular. Functional teas, post-COVID, functional teas have become very popular. Uh, Teas with herbs that uses chamomile, peppermint, rosehip, hibiscus, moringa, turmeric. These are some of the ingredients that are now alternatives to black tea and green tea, and they are making a lot of new interest among tea drinkers. There is a lot of new ideas being created with flavors, which are natural flavors. Uh, you can use sweetness to it. There are brands that's coming up with adding on sweetness like stevia, aspartame, adding out honey powders with the tea. We do a lot of these products, and we see significant growth in markets that have agreed or that have liked these products. Matcha is all of a sudden become a big boom. There is no matcha in Japan, even in Japan right now. Uh, tea cafes are becoming a trend right now, coming up with different types of tea-based infusion drinks that are cool, that are hot, even ice creams and edibles such as cookies and breads are being now been made using tea. Um, and then still the national branding, Ceylon, Darjeeling are preferred by tea consumers. This has given us a cultural influence, and it has enhanced its, enhanced, its, global recognition. 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 global recognition I hope my presentation has given you insight about tea. But beyond rituals, tea has an incredible way of bringing people together across borders, language, and backgrounds. A cup of tea can start a conversation between strangers, settle a disagreement, comfort someone in a difficult moment, or celebrate a happy one. Wherever you go in the world, offering teas is seen as a gesture of welcome and warmth. What's beautiful is that every country prepares tea differently, yet the intention behind it is the same, which is called connection. In Turkey, tea is shared in small tulip glasses. In Morocco, it's poured high to show respect. In the Middle East, it's offered as a sign of friendship. In India, we stand at roadside stalls and talk about life over a cutting chai, we call it. Tea travelers, as it's traveled, it carries stories, emotions, and tradition. It reminds us that no matter where we come from, we all find comfort in something as simple as a warm cup. Even during COVID, one of the industries that sustained was tea. Every tea company was still busy. We were manufacturing tea, we were selling tea, we were exporting tea because tea was unstoppable. Everyone wanted tea because it had so much of anti-inflammatory properties. It was an immunity booster, and that's how tea was connected, even to the younger generation. So when we say tea is more than just a drink, this is what we mean. It's a global language. Thank you, everyone. I hope my presentation was informative. Time for questions now.
Any thoughts on that? Yes.
Thank you so much, Kevin. That was a very fascinating, informative presentation. Yeah, I'll let Sherilyn help with the Q&A, and I'll also help with the Q&A. But Kevin, if you can
Okay.
in the chat if you see any questions.
Sure, but I just want to say thank you first. That was really remarkable. I took some notes here because I've actually begun reading myself about tea recipes and benefits of tea. But I see there's several questions here. I first saw one about, it said from Sydney, any thoughts on white tea? Kevin, I think you're muted.
White tea is thought of as a delicate, minimal processed tea. As I was explaining about the processes, white tea, green tea, puree tea, oolong teas, these tea come into a separate category. White tea is basically very subtle. It's actually called white because it doesn't have a color, but it has a natural sweetness, a light floral and fruity note, and it has a very crisp finish. Um, because of its minimal processing, it's preserved, and that is why it's called white tea.
Are there any other questions? You can just jump in with the hand raised or. Well, I had a question, and that is, how can we purchase your teas? Where would we go to do that?
I can send the links in the bio. We have two different brands, which is called Olinda Teas. This is a tea. It's www.olindateas.com. And as I said, we are catering teas for the new generation. These teas are patented tea bags, which is on the go, which is called Tea-Go teas, natural teas, but with a patented tea stick in it. It's only available with us. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy them on our websites. I will send the link to Persis, and yes, please feel free to order them.
Okay. I see. Thank you. I see that Jane has a question about, is milk tea still popular?
Milk tea is very popular in India, in Middle East, in UK specifically. The English breakfast tea comes in as with the milk and sugar. Um, So yeah, milk tea is very popular. In Japan, you call it the royal milk tea. We even came up with a innovation where we have tea and milk powder with sweetener packed in a tea bag, making it even more easier. You don't have to boil your milk. You don't have to boil tea separately. We damaged it and have it all intact in a tea bag. You just have to pour hot water and it's brewed perfectly to a cup of milk tea. And it is very still popular in Japan. Yeah, consumers drink milk tea even cold with sweetener with a lot of ice. In UK, in England, it's the English breakfast tea. It's served with milk separate tea and milk and tea. So yes, to answer the question, milk tea will never die, especially India, Sri Lanka. We all start our day with a cup of milk tea. Every household is served with a cup of milk tea. So this will still continue. So milk tea is very popular.
Thank you. I see that Hank has a question about chamomile tea. Is it proper to call chamomile tea tea?
Yeah, yes. Yes, you can. Herbs are also like described as tea,
Mm,
as one of the teas, because herbal, because you pack them into tea bags and you're selling it in the tea category. So that's why I mentioned functional teas are becoming very popular. So ingredients or herbs like chamomile, peppermint, spearmint, wild berries, rose hips, hibiscus, all of these have its own natural benefits, and they cater because it caters its benefits. People would like to consume them, and then they're easy also to pack them into tea bags. So that's why it's described as herbal teas.
mhm.
So that's one of the reasons.
Okay. Ines has a question about tribal tea traditions in India prior to colonization. If you could speak a little bit about the presence of tribal tea traditions in India.
So tribal traditions were using their own ingredients. So that's also one of the reasons where um, the ingredients that was used for medicinal and ceremonial purposes, and specific preparations like boiling with spices, aging in bamboo was one of the ways. In before using kettles, they used bamboos to boil teas. So that was one of the ancient tradition ways, tribal ways of brewing tea in India.
Mhm. Thank you. And Sydney had a question about shelf life, like how long can you keep tea, and is there a shelf life?
Manufacturers for black tea, they the shelf life is about 3 years. If it's stored in a cool and dry place, stored you know tight. But if it's properly preserved, you can use your black tea up to about 5 years. But I'm sure by the time in 5 years you'll finish the pack that you bought. So really, you don't test for 5 years. But the products really give a validity period of 3 years for black teas, for green teas, for flavored teas. But for herbal teas, because it can easily attract bugs, and it can infest bugs. It's given for 2 years, but again, it's also on your storing conditions and your climate conditions. It's always better to we give 2 years.
Okay. I see that. Thank you. I see that Sydney has a couple of questions, like what is the best way to drink tea? Um, any thoughts on iced tea?
ICs are becoming very popular,
Mm,
um, and they are mainly consumed during summer. Um,
mm,
and during summer, always the tea consumption becomes low. As a market, there will be a drop because most of the people drink tea during the winter time. So the season is always the winter time. Summertime, uh, when you're outdoors and when you prefer your tea, most of the consumers prefer it ice. So there are many ways you can have your iced tea. The traditional way of drinking iced tea is boiling tea on hot and keeping it to cool down, and then you can put ice and you can store it overnight, and you can
Mhm.
drink it whenever you want. And then the next part is again cooling it down, putting a lot of ice and drinking it ice whenever you want. So icy is a very popular beverage during summer, and it's widely consumed.
Thank you. Do you have any thoughts on the utensils that are best for preparing tea? I've seen some countries where you use ceramic pots for preparing tea. In, big cities, we may use electric pots. And I was just curious, is there a difference in terms of, or is there a preferred way to make the tea, boil the water?
Boiling water is very important. Um, so 100 degrees Celsius is the actual preferred temperature to boil your water for tea. This is predominantly for black and herbal teas. For green and white teas, you need because the brew takes quite a long time. You can go up to about 70, I mean about 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. And for oolong teas, it's about 80 to 90 degrees Celsius. So preferably for black tea, it's 100 degrees Celsius.
Thank you.
And the utensils are mainly for boiling water is your standard boiling utensil. It doesn't make a significant difference on the taste, but your temperature really matters.
Mm. Okay, thank you. I see we have a few more questions. Questions about what you might add to tea, like lemon, milk, honey, other ingredients. I've read recipes where you can even add fruit, apples,
Yep.
peaches, and different things. Another question about can you add, oh my goodness, alcohol to tea? Those types of beverages too.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Tea is easily contaminated. It can easily get contaminated with many of the other ingredients that is flavorful. So um, apple teas. So we come up with blends where we use actual natural dried fruit pieces. Um, when it's preserved, um, the flavors of or the essence of these ingredients can get contaminated with the tea. And when you boil the tea, you would automatically get the natural essence of the fruit that you're contaminating it with. And to answer the alcohol question, it's now a trend. Countries like Japan um, uh, drink their whiskey with green tea because Japan is a country that consumes tea like water. So they mix. It's strange. I've experienced it. So they'll always have a green tea ready to drink, which they would easily mix it with their mix with the whiskeys. And likewise, when you go with the herbal tea infusions like the berries, you can brew them separately and you can mix them with your vodkas or gins and making it a perfect cocktail. So tea connoisseurs and brands right now pair with alcohol brands, um, and they come up with workshops and giving ideas on how you can make tea infused cocktails, how you can pair tea with the different kinds of ingredients, and even with food ingredients, and make tea more delectable.
That sounds wonderful. I see that we are at 9 o'clock, and I really can't extend enough gratitude to Kevin for all the information that you made time to share with us this morning. This has been great. I also wanted to make sure that Monica Lakwani knows that we are so appreciative of her. She's a Fulbright alum, and her spearheading the development of our multilingual anthology. And so she does a lot of work in this area. So we're grateful also for her leadership. Thank you so much, Persis. There was a lot to manage today in terms of technology, but thank you everyone for being with us here. I really hope you do make time to incorporate some routines around tea in your life. I recently had a little tea party with a friend, and we just enjoyed just talking with each other over a cup of tea. Our part two series, I want to remind you, will take place in March. I think it's around the end of the month, so we will be marketing that event also. But thank you so much for making time to be with us here today, everyone, this Saturday. Thank you. And thank you, Kevin, again. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity and looking forward for the part two session. See you all soon.
Mhm.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.